This car is a statement. A statement that says no, I don't need 7 seats in my SUV, nor do I need a bottomless boot. I require the luxury, the presence, the easement that only a car like this can bring. At least, that's what a motoring journalist would say. Sadly, these types of cars get a bad rep in the industry as unnecessarily impractical ego boosters for the wealthy. Whilst that can certainly be true, in some cases you want to look at this from a different perspective. You see, I work in marketing, and if you look at the data, the Audi Q8 is almost the perfect car. We'll delve deeper in this video, but let me ask you a question first. How often do you see a brand new 7-seater behemoth doing the school run with all 7 seats being used? Not very often, right? Well, families only have 1.9 children on average in the UK, so do you really need the 7 seats? Or is it just wishful thinking? Well, today we're going to put this car through its paces in the real world, and I'll show you just how good this car is. My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Under the bonnet is a well-refined 3-litre V6 diesel with 286 horsepower and a nearly always accessible 600 Nm of torque. It's connected to a fancy 48-volt mild hybrid system that we'll talk a bit more about later on the road. In the front you'll find Audi's latest interior combined with some of the softest leather you'll ever touch. This particular car has the optional sport seats that hug you around the corners and warm you when you're cold. Look through the optional flat bottom steering wheel and you'll see, in my opinion, the best looking digital cockpit in any car. The clarity and the response is next level, and the navigation is powered by Google Earth. The infotainment system may be a touchscreen, but like the latest iPhone, there's actually haptic feedback, letting you know you've actually pressed a button. Moving to the centre console, you'll find your leather-wrapped gear selector that controls the buttery smooth ZF 8-speed gearbox, then an almost infinitely adjustable armrest that conceals the wireless charger. There's a whole host of other features, including the ear-shattering B&O system, the heads-up display, and much, much more. Having said that, as nice as the front is, the back is surprisingly the place I'd want to be. Think of this car more as a limousine, as the legroom is just absolutely vast, and the headroom, despite being a coupe body, is easily good enough for people over 6 feet. The seats recline, and you even get your own individual climate control. There's also a cup holder tucked away under the armrest. Of course, being a coupe, there must be a downside, right? The boot's gotta be terrible. Well, have a look for yourself. It may have frameless windows and coupe styling, but it's still a big car. With the seats up, you have a whopping 770 litres of space, big enough for a family to move house in. Fold the seats down and you can fit all the fridges and washing machines you'd ever need. There's also a sufficiently bright LED light on either side of the boot, making loading at night a breeze. Now, let's take this luxury barge on the road and waft through some traffic. So, we are driving the 2018 Audi Q8. And the first thing I just want to mention is silence. Even at low speeds you can tell there's going to be no noise in this car. The steering is just effortlessly light. I mean, you could do it with your pinky, it's that easy. And the suspension, the air suspension, it controls this car's weight so well. But it's weird. You see a bump and you think, oh, that's gonna hurt, and it kind of just does nothing. It's weird. The 48 volt mild hybrid system just seamlessly stops and starts the engine. Much better than the old 12 volt systems that you used to push the pedal down and it would take a second to get going, and now it just starts straight away. Now this is interesting. I drove an Audi Q7 pretty much exactly like this. The one difference between this and that car is this car has all-wheel steering. So theoretically it should be much easier to park. This car has a plethora of cameras. You can select the 3D camera, which generates a 3D image of the vehicle. To me, it feels slightly gimmicky at the moment. The overhead view is very useful though. And even a car as big as this can get into the space in one go. Okay, let's keep going. Another difference I noticed between this and the older Q7 is you feel much more cocooned in this car. Coming out of junctions, engine is off at the minute. You see how quickly this engine started. And that was only half throttle. This car's got some get up and go. Okay, we're going to reset the trip computer now so we can see what kind of MPG we can get driving around town, on the motorway and on some twisty roads. It's important to get all three in. The WLTP cycle of this car, I think it said it was 34 miles to the gallon. So I'm looking to see around that figure. 34 seems quite low, but you have to remember this car is extremely heavy, just over 2 tons. So you're driving the equivalent of a Range Rover Sport around. Let's see what it's like around this roundabout. Another thing the 48 volt mild hybrid system does is it works in tandem with the dynamic air suspension, keeping the car much flatter in the corners. That plus the all-wheel steering means the handling in this car is weirdly good. It feels so composed around the corners. You have to be so careful about your speed in this car. It just creeps up, and because it's so quiet in here, it's so hard to tell how fast you're going. Like, it feels like I'm going about 10 miles an hour now. It's a very odd sensation. We're in a national speed limit now, so I'm going to put the car into dynamic mode. Put the traction in sport, into manual. You can even change the gears yourself. The steering weight's up, throttle response is quicker. Coming around corners, put your foot down. This car has some real get up and go. And then of course it has the collision avoidance system, so as you saw there, I got slightly too close to the back of the car in front of me. And it's just telling me, you know, you're getting a little bit too close, and then if you do keep getting too close, it will actually brake the car for you. Whilst we're stuck in traffic, I can actually show you the adaptive cruise control. This car has something called traffic jam assist. So you can see my feet aren't on the pedals, my hands aren't on the steering wheel. And up to 40 miles an hour, this car will completely drive itself. So I just tap the throttle. And you're not supposed to do this, obviously, but I'm just showing it for demonstration purposes. This car will keep me in lane, and it will keep me a safe distance from the car in front. And these systems used to be a bit finicky with Audis. It used to sort of bounce you in between the lines. The one in this Q8 seems to work insanely well. It will literally keep you dead center in the lane. It's super duper impressive, and you can see it's telling me to put my hands on the wheel already. But you just give it a little nudge, and then it'll get you going again. And then you can turn the system off just by blipping this little handle here. Okay, now we're on the motorway. It gives us a chance to talk about some of the other things on this car. Firstly, the ride comfort. The suspension around town is obviously really good. On the motorway, it's even better. Once you get moving, there's no jiggliness to the ride at all. Everything just sort of blends seamlessly into the chassis. You don't get any of those big jolts through the suspension. The adaptive cruise control takes pretty much all the stress out of driving on the motorway. I've got it set to the minimum distance, and it's just about close enough that people don't sort of change lanes in front of you. I know in England a lot of people like to do that. And the lane keep assist is just fantastic. You basically just rest your hand on the steering wheel and the car does the rest for you. In terms of wind noise, there is zero. There is zero wind noise. You'd have to be going well over 100 miles an hour to actually hear any of it. And then tyre noise is by far the lowest I've ever heard in a car. Even lower than in the Audi Q8. But watch, as we come to another speed sign here, it'll start slowing us down. So we don't even have to do anything. And then it even sees the speed limit on the gantry, so it adjusts the adaptive cruise control automatically to 60 miles an hour. So the chances of getting a speeding ticket in this car if you leave the adaptive cruise on is zero. In terms of seat comfort, these are the optional sport seats, and you have so many adjustments in this car. If I go back to the home page, then I click on car, and then I click on seats, you'll see I can adjust the the length of the base of the seat. So I can extend it or I can retract it, and then I've got options here, so I can tighten the bolsters. That's if I want to do some sporty driving. Not see why you would in this car. You can even adjust the bolsters on the seat base as well to hug your thighs more. It's the first time I've ever seen that in a car. And then you can change the temperature balance as well. The car's telling me to move the steering wheel around. So if you prefer having your back hotter than your bum, you can actually say, oh, I want my back to get warmer compared to the seat base. There's pretty much infinite adjustability. And then you can even set driver profiles, so you can say, oh, when this person gets in the car with this key, make sure the seat's in this position, the steering wheel's in this position, turn the heated seat on. It's pretty much endless, the amount of options you can do with this car. The navigation is powered by Google Earth, as I mentioned before, and the clarity of the screens is just immense. I mean, you look at it on the virtual cockpit, and you've got quite a few different views, so if you want to see what your dials are doing, you can view it like that. Most of the time I leave it like this, because I don't really need to know what my revs are, and the speed is displayed in the heads-up display anyway, so I'm never really taking my eyes off the road. But the resolution and the frame rate is just next level in this car. It's seriously impressive. In terms of visibility, it's brilliant. You've got lane change assist, so put the indicator on, the car will start wandering into the next lane. Turn it off, it'll find the lane again, and then it will keep you there. It's as simple as that. It's brilliant. And then it's seen the Toyota Yaris in front of me as well, so it's slowing the car down a bit. And then we can go back into the other lane, turn the indicator off, and then it sees the lane again. Very impressive bit of kit. As you can see, my hands aren't on the wheel. It's steering for me. It'll tell me in a few seconds to put my hands on the wheel again. And then as you can see, it's also turned the engine off. That 48 volt mild hybrid system, what it does when you're going downhill, it'll turn the engine off and go into coast mode, so you're using pretty much no fuel whatsoever. As you can see, we're doing 36 miles to the gallon at the moment. I reckon if you drove at a slower speed, you'd easily see above 40 miles to the gallon in this car. And this is for a V6 diesel with huge amounts of weight behind it. Seriously impressive. I mentioned actually the reason there is almost no wind noise in this car is because of the double glazing. It's got double glazing on the front, the sides, the backs, apart from the rear window, I think. But it means there's just no noise coming into the cabin. You just get this kind of ambient hum, similar to being on an aeroplane actually. It's just kind of that ambient humming noise, but obviously a lot quieter. In terms of interior quality, you've got this car's got the extended leather package, so you've got extended leather on the dash, and then you've got it on the door sills, and it's just so soft. I mean, it's like the finest leather you'd ever get in a car, bar a Rolls Royce or something like that, obviously. Sadly, you don't get it up here, but this is still nice squidgy material. You've got leather down here where your knees are, and then there's even squidgy material down on the door cards. There's pretty much no hard plastics in this interior whatsoever. The only one I could find was up here, and then the speaker cover down there. This car's done just over 40,000 miles now, and there's still no squeaks and rattles in the interior. So Audi's quality control has been very impressive. This car also has the Bang & Olufsen sound system, and as usual, it's insanely good, obviously. And the bass is amazing, the highs are amazing, and the clarity, even when you turn it all the way up, is still really, really good. Okay, we come off the motorway now, and we managed 39 miles to the gallon. And that was only a short stint. You can see it's still going up, so I reckon you'd probably get 44, 45 miles to the gallon. Pretty impressive, really. It's a little bit better than the Q7 we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, and I think that's mainly because this car's a bit sleeker because it's got that coupe body shape. We're going to take it on to some twistier roads now to see how it handles. Okay, now we're at our favourite bit of road. Let's give it some. I've put the car into dynamic. This has lowered the air suspension. Now you can see it gets up to the national speed limit very quickly, this car. Even going over big bumps like that, it does really, really well. The only thing you have to watch out for is this is a big car. It hides its weight very well. There's no mistaking that this is a big car to move around. Now this car does indeed have launch control. You just put your foot on the brake, floor the throttle, launch program active, and release. This will do 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds. Although it feels quicker than that, the amount of torque it has is mighty. Up to the national speed limit already. You know what, this car is actually quite fun to drive, I think purely because it's just so big. It has so much capability. The steering in dynamic feels super direct, it's almost sports car-like. Obviously the only thing you're missing is the sound, but you know, can't have everything. Coming out of junctions in dynamic, put your foot down. Absolutely rapid, this car. Surprisingly quick. Okay, we're on our way back to the dealership now. And as you can see, we managed 35.1 miles to the gallon. So that's driving around town, on the motorway, and then a little bit of twisty road driving. It's actually 1 mpg more than its claimed figure. I think that's the first time that's ever happened to me. Usually it's a lot less. But since we're going to be stuck in traffic on the way back, I thought I may as well wrap the video up there. As always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and why not subscribe to our channel so you can see some more of our stock. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.